Hi, I'm Dr. Joanne Tully with Holistic Wellness Center. Welcome to my class. Are your emotions killing you? Three massive mistakes women make that keep them tired, depressed, and utterly miserable. We're going to count down these massive mistakes from 3 to 1. So, our first massive mistake is actually massive mistake number 3, and it is not using your food as medicine. So, let's define food. Food is any substance that we would take in to give our body nourishment for things like to make energy, for growth and repair. And specifically, it would be things like proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. And what's the definition of medicine? Medicine would be any substance that we would take to alleviate a pain, maybe to alleviate a symptom, to possibly prevent or cure a disease. But in the United States, we don't really have a healthcare system. It is more a disease care system. Where we really excel within Western medicine is within the crisis care model. And let me give you an example of what that would look like. So say our house were our body, and our house was in crisis mode. Say it was on fire. So we would call the fire department. We'd call the experts. The fire department would come, and they would bring their hoses, and they would spray down our house with water, and they would probably need to knock down a door, maybe some walls, in order to save the rest of the structure. And if they got there in time, hopefully they're able to bring our house out of crisis mode and put out the fire. But can you go right back into that house and live? Or do you have some real cleanup work to do? And that's what we're talking about here. The difference between crisis, Western care medicine, and holistic medicine. We're talking about going back in and doing some prevention, doing some cleaning of the body. And what does using food as medicine mean then if we're putting both of those together? It would mean eating our food in such a way that we're easily able to digest it, assimilate it, and absorb the nutrients from our foods so that we're able to make energy, clear toxins, and have good cellular communication within our body. And what does using food as medicine not mean? What it doesn't mean is taking a truckload of supplements and herbs and enzymes and essential oils. Don't get me wrong, though. These things can be wonderful to help hold you steady and bring you out of a crisis mode to get you to a better spot. But what we're really talking about is obtaining the nutrients that our bodies need from food itself. So why should you care about this? Well, we are a very sick nation. We spend so much money on healthcare within the United States, but we are behind so many other countries in healthcare. We have so many preventable diseases, and yet we're not doing anything about them. 1 in 5 American deaths are now obesity related. Sugar consumption is driving disease rates, and people are going bankrupt with the money that they are spending on these crisis modes, chronic diseases. So it's really, really important. And I have several people comment to me, well, I just can't afford to eat organic foods. And I would say you probably can't afford not to. Know that you're going to pay for your health care either now or in the future. And if you can take some measures right now to eat cleaner, and even though the food is a little bit more expensive, you are going to save so much money in the long run, as well as your health. You're going to feel better, and your health is going to be so much better. So what we're talking about here specifically with using food as medicine is eating whole, clean, organic foods. We're also talking about eating your vegetables. You knew I was going to say that. You'll want to learn to read labels, and not just for the calorie content, but what is in the food. What part of are there fats and sugars that are in the calorie content? And if so, know that some sugars and some fats are good and others aren't. So it's being able to decipher those things. And within the label itself, the top 3 ingredients are typically mostly what's in that food. And if you see a bunch of chemical sounding names, you probably want to stay away from that. So basically, you want to eat foods that really don't have a label on it. So stay away from the packaged and processed foods. You're going to want to stay away from or eliminate artificial sweeteners, food dyes, chemical additives. And if you choose to eat meats, you're going to want to buy meats and animal products from grass-fed animals that were not fed antibiotics. So in other words, you're going to want to eat healthy animals. And the reason to buy grass-fed animals and animal products, that is their natural foods. And if you find yourself sensitive to grains, say wheat, for example, maybe corn, if the animal was fed the grains, you will probably be sensitive to the meat or the animal products. So just know that ahead of time. And also when we're talking about healthy animals, did they grow up within a small cage, or were they able to roam free and eat things out in the pasture? Think of yourself on this. Say you were trapped in an elevator with a lot of other people, and the elevator was hot and steamy, and people were starting to get really crabby and irritated. You're going to start to release some stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. And you're not going to be very happy, and you might just end up being sick. So the animals are like this too. If they're in a cage with a lot of other animals, they're going to start to produce these stress hormones themselves, so it will lead to a sicker animal. So just realize that. And you're going to want to get your head wrapped around the concept of food elimination diets so that you can determine which foods you might be sensitive to. And this will be different for people. So what you might be sensitive to is not going to be the same as another family member, as your neighbors, your coworker, that kind of thing. There's a lot of good books out on the market that'll help you with food elimination diets. But one that I like in particular is The Virgin Diet by J.J. Virgin. And she explains how to do a proper 3-week food elimination diet by taking out the top 7 food sensitive items. And even that the top of her list there would be things like wheat, dairy, corn, soy, etc. And know that there's a lot of different ways to do this, but if you want to just get your head wrapped around the concept, this is a good book to do that with. She's also got a new book out about sugar consumption too, which is also a great read as well. Another book that I like is The Wheat Belly by Dr. William Davis, who is a preventive cardiologist. And he will explain in here how wheat affects many processes within our body. It actually changes your brain chemistry. There is a sugar component here that wreaks havoc for your blood sugars, and several other symptoms that can come from eating wheat. So these are 2 good books just to start with. And then also another outlet where you can get some information on foods that feed your cells would be the work of Dr. Terry Wahls with her book, The Wahls Protocol. And Dr. Terry Wahls is a medical doctor in Iowa City, and she has multiple sclerosis. And she found herself getting worse with conventional medicine. So she took a look at the concepts of using food as medicine and researched out what nutrients do you really need from foods to have your body be able to make energy, clear toxins, and have good cellular communication. So her book, The Wahls Protocol, outlines what you need to do this. And know that Dr. Wahls took herself from being wheelchair bound and using food as medicine, then went from being wheelchair bound to 9 months later, she was able to ride her bike for 18 miles, which is just incredible. And that's from using mostly food as medicine, those concepts within that book. So it's just incredible, and it's so very powerful. And what if you don't like to read? I love to read, so it always surprises me when I hear that other people maybe don't like to read, but maybe you just don't have the time or whatever. I want you to know I've got some resources out on the web for you. If you go to YouTube, you can search for my channel under Joanne Tully. I have some different things within different playlists. I have under Using Food as Medicine playlist, I've got Dr. Wall's TED Talk within there on minding your mitochondria. It's a 20-minute lecture. It's really great. I've also got some interviews with JJ Virgin that she has done with Dr. Joe Mercola. So take a look at some sources on there. And know too that I had several patients ask me specifically to do a webinar on using your food as medicine based on the work of Dr. Terry Walls. So on my website, holisticwc.com, I have a webinar on there, Using Your Food as Medicine, that will break all of this information down for you even more. So if you're needing those resources, I really highly recommend going out to, again, either YouTube under my channel, Joanne Tully, and look at the playlist there, or go to my website, holisticwc.com, and go to the classes and testimonials page for more webinars and upcoming live classes to get your head wrapped around some more of these concepts. And now we're going to talk about massive mistake number 2, which is ignoring your symptoms. So what's the definition of symptoms? Symptoms are features, either physical or mental, that would tell us that something is going on in our bodies. There's something that we would be aware of. So examples of symptoms would be things like aches, pains, headache, radiating pain, stomach aches, constipation, diarrhea, those kinds of things. Maybe even insomnia, depression, those things as well. And what do most people do when they feel symptoms? They ignore them. They try to cover them up. They don't want to feel symptoms because they're no fun to feel. So we might do things, we might eat to kind of drown them out. We might drink alcohol. We might take drugs, pharmaceuticals, things like that. But basically we want to ignore them and cover them up. And did you know that ignoring your symptoms can lead to bigger symptoms? So know that if you ignore things, your body gets out a bigger and bigger stick and beats you with it until you start taking notice of what's going on within your life. So if you have been ignoring your symptoms, here's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to get to know your body. Pay attention to possible connections between stress, emotions, diet, chemicals, lack of movement, etc. When we numb ourselves out to try to make these symptoms go away, we're not connected to our body. We don't know what's going on. So it's time to turn that process around and really, really pay attention. You might need to start a symptom diary to help you make the connections to different foods and emotions and maybe chemicals. And this symptom diary can be as detailed or as vague as you need it to be to help you make these connections. So you might want to start off with the day of the week and the date, and maybe write down all of the foods that you had that day and even the quantity of the foods. You can write down all of your emotions that you felt, all the different emotions that you felt for that day, and your different symptoms that you had. And if you suspect there's any connections between any of those things, write down those notes as well. And then as you look back, hopefully you can start to make some of those connections on your own. And you're going to want to quiet your mind through meditation so you can receive messages from your body. Know that when you have symptoms, this is your body giving you a message that something's out of balance and it wants you to rebalance, to figure something out. So the best way to do this is really to get quiet through meditation. But a lot of people have trouble meditating. If you've ever tried it before, it can be so very difficult in the beginning because you have this negative Nelly running through your head, all these negative thoughts that just won't shut up. So you might need some help with that. But once you get good at this and maybe take the top layer of negativity out with some help, you get good at meditation, and this is where you really know what's going on in your body. If you get a headache throughout the day, you can sit with that and you think, what's this about? And you should be able to make connections right away, like, oh, I just had a stressful situation, or I just ate a food with a chemical in it and that irritated me, maybe a soda pop, something like that. So quiet your mind through meditation so you can actually receive these messages from your body. And I love this quote from Louise Hay. She says that mental thought patterns that cause the most disease in the body are criticism, anger, resentment, and guilt. So did you know that criticism will cause things in the body that end in itis? So arthritis, colitis, things like that. So if you are constantly criticizing yourself and others, know that you're setting your body up to have some symptoms that don't feel very good. Anger held in the body would start to decrease the function of the liver and the heart, for examples, and they can also cause things to be red and inflamed and blister and boil. So infections can be caused by holding on to anger. And how about resentment? Resentment will usually start to decrease the function of the gallbladder and could cause gallbladder attacks. This is what happened to me personally. I was shutting down my gallbladder left and right, and it didn't feel good. And when I finally made the connection to release some resentment that I was holding on to, boom, done with gallbladder attacks, never had another one again. And guilt. Guilt held long enough in the body creates just pain in the body. So you will just create your own suffering if you're holding on to feelings of guilt. And these things, I never used to believe that holding on to things like this could cause these certain symptoms until I saw them in myself and through several patients. And it really made me stop and take notice that this is such a very important aspect of your health. So ignoring your symptoms is the number two massive mistake. You've really, really got to get to know your body and pay attention. And now we are ready for massive mistake number one, the most important mistake that we make to keep ourselves tired, depressed, and utterly miserable. And it is holding on to negative emotions and beliefs. And I, like I said before, I didn't used to believe that this was even possible until I started seeing it in myself, in several of my patients, and actually reading more on it. There's so much in the scientific literature on this. I was blown away. So let's set the stage here and talk about this. So there is a continuum of, on one end of the continuum, we have fear, and on the other end of that continuum of emotions, we've got love. And on the fear side of that continuum, those are the emotions that don't feel good. They feel heavy, things like fear, anger, guilt. And then we go along, as we move on that continuum towards love, it might be things like acceptance and reasoning. But when we get to the love side of that continuum, that emotion is light and it feels wonderful and amazing. So knowing where you are on that continuum on any given point in time, are you closer to fear or are you closer to love? It's so very important to know and understand that continuum. And so some examples of negative emotions would be your fears, your anger, regrets, criticism, grief, those kinds of things. And some examples of negative beliefs would be things like, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve to be healthy and well, those kinds of things that really trip up your system and actually put you in a self-sabotage mode, so that you struggle to heal if you have those underlying beliefs and emotions. So what's the big deal? Why should I care? Well, if you hold on to these things, they will just hurt you. You're going to create chemistry, negative chemistry in your body. You're going to create cortisol and adrenaline, the stress hormones. So you will damage yourself in a very, very significant way. And you're going to have to learn how to release some of these things. So let's give you some tips and tricks here. So you're going to want to allow yourself to let these go as you recognize them. Let these negative emotions go. You might think that I'm fine. I don't have any buried emotions. I feel fine right now. Well, you might feel fine right now, but as you recognize them and that something's going on or you get an emotional trigger, you just don't feel good, know that that's your cue to start to release something. You want to start recognizing when you don't feel good and then allow yourself to let these things go as they come up. Prayer and meditation are great for doing this on your own, but know that if you have a deep and thick layer of negativity within you already, you're going to have trouble with meditation. Some people can start to meditate and get on board with that and start going with it immediately. Most people really do have trouble with that. And prayer is where you're asking for help. Meditation is where you go silent and you receive answers from your inner guidance system on what is going on and what you need to release. So really you need to do meditation, and it's just know that it's very hard to do on your own, and there's plenty of resources to help you with that. Another tip here, stop blaming others. You have to recognize that you need to take responsibility for yourself. You can only work on yourself, and know that when you don't feel right, you don't feel good, it's just something in yourself that's ready to be healed. So if you are in a blaming pattern where you're blaming your spouse, you're blaming your kids, you're blaming your parents, you're blaming the dog, you're even blaming Obama, you got to stop that. It's not going to help you get to where you want to be. Trust me. I didn't used to believe this either, but it is so very true. And know that anytime you feel an emotional charge from any situation or person, it is merely a message from your body that an unresolved issue is bubbling to the surface and is ready to be healed. That's all it is. So this can be things like as little as road rage. So if you're out on the interstate driving along, minding your own business, and somebody's tailgating you and then maybe passes you and cuts you off, you have some different options. Are you going to respond from the love end of the continuum or from the fear end of the continuum? If you get an emotional charge or you get really ticked off and have a little bit of road rage from an incident like that, that is just something in yourself that's ready to be healed. And it might be just something like, I don't feel safe. I'm if it's anything other than that, there's other possibilities, but most of the time that is like, I don't feel safe. If there were no emotional charge, it would be more like, wow, that person is in a hurry. I'm going to send them a blessing so that they have a safe journey. And boom, you're done with it. You're not dwelling on it. It doesn't stick with you. So that's what we're talking about here. And know that if you are unwilling or unable to let go of an emotion, ask yourself gently and lovingly, what are you gaining by holding on to it? There are some people, for instance, that will not forgive other people or themselves or let go of these feelings of guilt. And they learned how to, as a child, they learned how to get emotional needs met by control and manipulation. And I'm not saying that this is what's going on with everybody. This is just one of many examples. So to them, in a twisted kind of way, they're just trying to get their emotional needs met, but they don't know how to go about it any other way. So they might be using control and manipulation. So to them, they would not be willing to let go of some of these emotions because that's how they get attention. So just realize that. Again, if you're unwilling to let go of an emotion, ask yourself, what are you gaining by holding on to it? And that might be enough to just kind of gently let you start releasing it just with that. Now, some resources that can help you make emotional connections to physical symptoms would be Louise Hay. She's got a great book called Heal Your Body A to Z. And I have her book as well as I have her app from iTunes that I use on my phone all the time. So she has within here list of all the different possible symptoms within your body and what might be a possible emotional connection to that. So that's just a starting point. It might not resonate with you, but again, it's just one of many tools. Now, if you come from a Christian background, you might like Carol Tuttle's book, Remembering Wholeness. She has several short chapters within this book, and it's just really phenomenal. So if that speaks to you, you might want to take a look at her book. And if you come from a scientific background, Dr. Bruce Lipton is a cellular biologist, and he's got some great books out there, one of which is The Biology of Belief. So he'll actually take you through the research on how your belief systems and your negative emotions actually create negative chemistry within your body. So The Biology of Belief, it's a really great read. And you might like Marianne Williamson. I just love her. She is a spiritual lecturer and teacher. She's from California. She has a book called A Return to Love, where she talks about another book called A Course in Miracles. So A Return to Love is a reflection on the Course of Miracles, of which she lectures about quite a bit. It's a short read, but just has some really profound insights within this book. And of course, A Course in Miracles that is put out by the Foundation for Inner Peace. This book is really hands down what catapulted my ability to meditate and go deep and get in touch with my own inner guidance system and have a more a deeper connection to God and to my spiritual connection. So I would highly recommend this to anyone. And then if you are curious about energy medicine in general, Donna Eden is a phenomenally well-known energy healer. She has a great book called Energy Medicine. There's a lot of great exercises that she has that will help balance out your own energetic systems. And say you don't like to read, then again, I recommend that you go out to my YouTube channel under Joanne Tully. I've got several playlists out there. I've got lectures from these people, different things. Take a look and see if you resonate with any of these authors, any of these speakers, and see if maybe you want to go to their websites and take a look around a little bit more. And also go to my website at Holistic WC for some more resources as well. And now what? Now you're going to want to ask yourself, where are you on your health journey? Do you feel like you need more guidance? And how much garbage do you have inside? Have you taken the trash out ever? So where are you at with all of these things? And know that if you don't feel amazing, you should be asking, why not? What is holding you back? You should feel amazing every day. And if you don't, you really need to go digging a little bit further. All of your answers are within. And know that we all have emotional blocks, but clearing them out does not need to take years unless you want it to. So let me give you a little bit of my story. I grew up learning about anger, that was what we wanted to, that was the appropriate emotion to express. And a lot of it was just, my feelings were hurt a lot, but it's easier to express anger than it is to feel sorry for yourself and feel all those hurt feelings. That's no fun. So I learned about anger and control early on, and I learned them mostly from my father, who I love dearly, but he had his own emotional wounds from childhood that he learned from his parents, who had their own emotional wounds from childhood. So it's things like this that we just kind of keep on moving forward. And what happens when we are children, we are in a theta wavelength, so we are just a sponge with no filter. We're just absorbing these emotional imprints from our parents, and we have no filter. We don't know, what is really ours to take on and what isn't. So we just absorb a whole bunch of junk, basically. So with me, with my anger, I was angry all the time. I was negative. I was a glass is half empty kind of person. I was always making assumptions about people that were not true. And my first marriage did not go very well. Was married almost 20 years, but I was so angry with my first husband all of the time. And so this cost me my marriage. I was blaming him all the time. It wasn't me that was the problem. It was all him. And I didn't recognize that until after we were divorced. And it was a very, very stressful divorce. But I had shut down my liver. I was shutting down my gallbladder. Had been in severe adrenal fatigue 3 different times. My hormones were out of whack. I was not a fun person to be around. I found myself just being overwhelmed by the simplest of tasks. I didn't even want to go to the grocery store by myself because that was too overwhelming. I didn't want to see people. I didn't want to have people over. I didn't want to entertain because I didn't want to clean the house and all that goes along with that. But once I started looking within and realizing what was going on with people, a lot of times it goes back to looking at Lyme disease within myself and patients too. You can read my story about Lyme disease on my website. But discovered my new husband and myself, we found that we had Lyme disease. And in going back and looking at my patients that had Lyme disease and those that were not healing, it was easy to go back and look and see that we took care of the pathogens pretty easily within a 2-month time frame. But those people that struggled to heal, we look back and they were all emotional issues, emotional blocks. And that's when I started really looking at these things, looking at them in myself and my patients. And this is where I found that this was the key, I believed. Once we started releasing some of these things, then the bodies were starting to heal in a very, very profound way. It was just amazing. So now the challenge for you is, how aware are you? And can you teach yourself, or do you need training wheels and guidance? Are my tips and tricks that I've shown you on this webinar, are they enough for you to just take and go look on these different books, these different YouTube videos? Can you get some more tips and tricks and go there from yourself, or do you need a lot more help? What will happen once you get home? You will start to take a look around yourself. You'll start to realize how unhappy you might be, how much energy you might or might not have. You'll look at your career, your job, your life, your purpose in life, your relationships. And if you're not happy, you're going to start to really, really notice a lot more of those things. And you're going to be forced to make some changes. You won't want to stay stuck within those patterns. Know that there's a huge need for true healing. And within A Course in Miracles, it states all illness is mental illness. And let me explain that. By mental illness, they mean like it's a thought process. It's a negative emotion or negative belief that you're holding in. But what you do is you create a physical illness from that mental illness. So it goes back to holding on to anger and resentment and criticism, those kinds of things. Again, they will create negative chemistry within your body. So you'll create the stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, and you will actually then create physical illness if you don't pay attention to what's going on and release these emotions. So, are you ready to say goodbye to unexplained anger? Angry all the time, don't even know why. Are you ready to say goodbye to dysfunctional relationships, fighting with everyone around you, your spouse, your kids, your parents, your coworkers? Are you ready to say goodbye to needless worry and sleepless nights? A lot of times these go hand in hand. Are you ready to say goodbye to unexplained aches and pains and other symptoms? How about constant negative mental chatter? Are you ready to say goodbye to that? And are you ready to say goodbye to feeling attacked by others, constantly feeling like everyone is out to get you? And are you ready to say goodbye to feeling hopeless, unloved, and alone, and not wanting to socialize? How sad is that? Are you missing time with your kids, your parents, your grandkids, just because you're feeling miserable and don't want to socialize? Are you ready to say goodbye to that? And are you ready to say goodbye to the incessant need to control situations and others? How about lost productivity at home and at work? Are you ready to say goodbye to that? Well, I created a class, a workshop, Learn to Heal Yourself. And this is all because of there's such a direct cost of doing nothing. And let's go over what this is. So the direct cost of doing nothing, there is a comparative value of what you are doing now. And let's just say 12 counseling sessions. A lot of people that I come across that are depressed and anxious, worry a lot, feeling miserable, they go through some type of counseling session. So here, a standard counseling session would be $250, for upwards of an hour, and that's just average. You might have insurance that pays for part or all of that, but 12 counseling sessions would be $3,000 in a year. What if you were on 1 year of antidepressants and that was $100 a month just on average? And again, you might have insurance, be paying less than that. You might be paying more than that. But a year's worth of antidepressants might cost you about $1,200. How about a year of pain medications? And here an average figure might be $50 a month. So maybe you're spending $600 a month on pain meds just trying to numb yourself out. And how about a year of quality supplements? Here I've got a figure of $150 a month, which is pretty conservative for a lot of people. You can be spending a lot more. I know myself, I probably spent $300 to $500 a month on quality supplements and enzymes and essential oils. So know that people spend a lot of money on these things just trying to hold steady. So that might cost you maybe a minimum of $1,800 a year. And how about if you're so miserable that it costs you your marriage? So did you know that a divorce with kids will probably cost you a minimum of $7,500? Mine cost me $10,000 because it was a very a very nasty divorce. Unfortunately, I hate to say that. And that was just my cost. The $10,000 was my cost, not my ex-spouse's cost. So 1 year of remaining miserable might just cost you more than $14,000. But there's a lot of intangibles here. What about lost productivity and losing time from work, from your home, not getting things done, feeling so overwhelmed, losing friendships, not getting along with family members, all those kinds of things. So there's direct and indirect costs of doing nothing, and they're very expensive. So again, I created a workshop called Learn to Heal Yourself to address some of these concerns and actually get to the bottom of some of these symptoms so that you can feel amazing and heal yourself immediately. And the benefits of this workshop, where you're going to learn about energy, emotions, and their connections to physical symptoms. You'll have personal assistance from me in releasing your own negative emotions. Because in the beginning, sometimes there's so much negativity that you just don't know where to start. So I'm going to personally help you with that and get the ball rolling. You're going to learn how to identify toxic emotions and release them on your own. So you're going to learn how to ride that bike on your own. And remember when you first learned how to ride a bike and you needed training wheels and you were pretty wobbly at first, but you kept on trying. You kept at it and you kept at it. And pretty soon the training wheels came off and voila, you were able to ride your bike. And know that, do you remember that feeling of, it's an amazing feeling, the wind's blowing through your hair and it feels great. And you fell off your bike a few times too, but you got right back on your bike and did it again because it felt so incredible. So I'm going to teach you how to ride this bike yourself. So I'm also going to teach you how to take control of your life. Feel more optimistic, calm, relaxed, more productive, have more energy, feel more fulfilled, have more intimate and loving relationships, have better mental clarity, joy, and so much more. Now the features of this workshop, this is all going to be web-based. So I'm going to have 4 classes that are spaced bi-weekly. So these will be webinar classes. And in these webinar classes, we're going to go over definitions, concepts, and I'm going to teach you your daily homework assignments. So again, these are just kind of general, laying down some foundations, and you'll probably want to view these webinars multiple times because some of the concepts are so so very you haven't heard of them before. They're so very deep and everything that it takes several times to go through them to really get the gist of what they're trying to say. And then the other feature would be 8 60-minute one-on-one sessions with me. It's spaced weekly in the beginning for maximum benefit. And this is where most of your learning happens. And know that we will not be rehashing old wounds, but we will be identifying major negative themes and linking them back to your childhood or whenever they first began, making a connection there, and then we'll get to work right away on releasing these negative themes, beliefs, emotions, releasing them right away. So again, this is where the meat of it is. And we can do this a few different ways. Some of my patients, we just connect by cell phone, some through Skype or some other web-based program. It works really slick. It is one-on-one, but this is where most of the meat of the learning happens. And know too that at any given time, as I've got certain patients that I'm already working with, some of them would be finishing up the workshop, and other people will be adding on and just coming onto the workshop. But in total, I can only take 20 at a time with my schedule. So know that. So if it's something that, if this resonates with you and you really want to work with me and you really want some help, please just let me know as soon as you can. You'll want to get signed up, or at least get on a waiting list. Now here's the breakdown. On this workshop, the 4 webinar classes are priced at $50 each, so $200 total for them. And they're spaced again bi-weekly, so every other week. So we would have the bulk of this whole workshop done within a 2-month time frame. And then your 8 individual sessions with me personally are priced at $250 each. So a grand total here of $2,000. And those 8 individual sessions, we'll want to have you meet, if at all possible, weekly in the beginning. Some of the last few sessions, we can go out a little bit further with that, but we can be flexible, but most of the learning happens right away. So the total cost of this Learn to Heal Yourself workshop is $2,200. And if you sign up and invest right away, I'm going to give that workshop to you for $1,997. So I want you to ask yourself, do you want to thrive, or are you just going to survive? Do you want to feel amazing and powerful and alive, or do you want to stay miserable? It's up to you. And if you sign up and pay today, I'm going to give you some bonuses that will help you on your journey to kind of clean up your health. So I've got 3 webinars. One is called Digestive Health, another is Using Your Food as Medicine, and the third is Immune System Recovery. Now, each of those webinars is a $30 value, and I'm going to give them to you as bonuses if you sign up right away. And these will help give you some more background information on what all you need to do to help you clean your body up, so that you can become healthier. And I'm also going to give you a free 30-minute session or consultation with me where we're going to go over and review your health history so I can help you make faster connections to things that you have had in the past, different surgeries, maybe medications that you're taking now, different supplements you're taking now, and just what is your health history, what has been going on. We'll help you make some of those connections faster by just having that 30-minute consultation. And that's a $75 value. So I have bonuses for you that are worth $165 just for signing up and investing in yourself today. So if you invest today for $1,997, you will actually receive $2,365 worth of services and products. So again, what are you waiting for? And do you want to feel amazing and get to the bottom of what's going on with your health? Or do you just want to stay the same? It's really up to you. If you feel like you resonate with me and what I have said here, take take that as an indication that we would work well together and this would be the best thing for you. If you don't resonate well, I wish you the best on your journey. Feel free to look at my website, holisticwc.com. Go to my YouTube channel, Joanne Tully, for more information. And I wish you well on your journey to holistic wellness.